CBs, do you really need a big shop compressor like this one when a small pancake compressor like this one will do the job? Let's find out. Now, the general rule of thumb is if you're going to be using your shop tools all the time, or if you use tools that require a lot of air, you're going to want to get a bigger machine like this 21 gallon. However, you may find that if you get a good 6-gallon compressor like this Fortress, you may not need a bigger one. So let's compare these two machines and see what's right for you, a smaller one or the bigger one. Now, first off, these both have 175 PSI tank capacity. They both have oilless motors, which means less maintenance. They're both a little noisy. And they're also both pretty portable. This one weighs almost 30 pounds. Just pick it up and carry it away. And this one, you just disconnect it and you can wheel it wherever you gotta go, which is actually pretty awesome because there's been times where I've had to use my plasma cutter across the yard and I needed air and this thing just rolls right to it. Now, obviously the biggest difference between these two are the tank size and also the amount of air they pack in. But perhaps the biggest factor is fill times. All right, so 2.5 minutes to fill this tank. That's not bad. You basically turn it on, you set your work up, and by the time you're done setting up, this thing's ready to go. All right, so the big guy took over 7 minutes to fill up, almost triple the amount of time it took to fill up this Fortress. Now, if you really think about it, this is over triple the volume amount of air than in this tank, and it didn't take quite triple the amount of time, so it's not that bad. But what you have to think about is the workability. What are you going to be using it for? Are you going to use an impact to take the lug nuts off a small truck or SUV? Perfect. 6 gallons are great for that. Now, I actually have the 6-gallon plugged right into my hose reel because it can handle it. See, that 6-gallon handled this impact and these lug nuts with no problem. I was able to get all of them out, and the machine only kicked on the 5th lug, but that's only at 140 PSI, so it had plenty of power still to go in the tank. All right, now let's try some other tests. Let's say you're going to cut a small piece of steel, like this little piece of channel. All right, so the timer says it took 29 seconds to cut through that piece using the 6-gallon. Now, it was probably more like 26 or 27 because I lagged on the stop button. But anyways, let's try the 21 gallon. All right, I was probably about 1.5 seconds off of my timing with the stop button, so we're going to call it 20 seconds. So with the cutoff tool, the 21 gallon was quite a bit faster than using the 6. All right, now let's do a test that's a little bit more difficult. This is a solid steel bar. Now we're going to see how long it takes the 6-gallon to cut through this and see if it even can cut through this. All right, guys, about 46 seconds in and the compressor just couldn't supply enough air to cut through this bar. Of course, you could just let it fill up for 1.5 minutes and then finish the job. But instead, let's see how the bigger guy does. All right, I'm not going to lie, I thought about giving up on that one. That took almost 4.5 minutes to cut through that. Almost ran out of air, but I didn't quite run out. I was able to get it cut all the way through. So 21 gallon will cut through, but it's going to slow down a lot at the end. Also, this is the cheapest cutoff tool at Harbor Freight, which is the cheapest tool store ever in the world. So it's the cheapest of the cheap, not a professional tool. Probably would have done better with a name brand. Also, in hindsight, seeing as that it took 46 seconds for the Fortress to get through half of that bar, took 4.5 minutes for this guy to get through it, probably would have been better just to let this thing recharge up and keep cutting. Might be done in 1 minute less than using the McGraw. Now, if you're going to be doing stuff like airing up tires, I would definitely recommend getting a 6-gallon. It's going to fill up a lot faster than a big compressor, and you really only need 50 PSI at a time. And if you have the regulator set to 50, putting air in the tire, this is actually going to build pressure faster than you're going to use it. Now, small stuff like nailing and stapling, 6-gallon will last all day. So tools like this die grinder are great for mechanics. They're great for cleaning things up, grinding them down, polishing them up. They're an awesome tool to have on hand, but they require a lot of air. Now 24 seconds is actually a pretty good runtime for a small compressor, also considering that it builds pressure pretty quickly. But let's see how the McGraw does. Now that was pretty cool. The McGraw actually lasted roughly 5 times longer than the Fortress with the die grinder. And realistically, guys, this is the trade-off here. This one's going to give you a lot higher volume of air for bigger projects. This one's going to fill up quicker, but it's less volume for smaller projects. So if you like to work on your own vehicle and you're really only going to use an impact every once in a while, 6-gallon will be fine. But if you're also going to be using things like a die grinder and an air ratchet, you're going to want to use a bigger compressor like the 21. So here's the deal, guys. For the longest time, I only had a 6-gallon compressor, the old red Central Pneumatic one. And it was great, but as I acquired more air tools, I kind of got tired of having to stop halfway through to wait for the machine to build more pressure. So I got the 21-gallon McGraw. So the thing is, if you work with these guys, small engines, which I love to work with, a 6-gallon can do a whole lot of work for you. But I also do 100% of the repairs and maintenance on my Jeep as well as my Suburban, so I need the bigger air compressor for some of the jobs. And for me, I'd rather come in the garage, switch this guy on, and then go set up my work. Because I know I'll have enough air to do whatever I gotta do. But if you're only filling up tires or blowing out carburetors, this takes like 45 seconds to get up to enough pressure to do that kind of thing. Whereas this one takes a little bit longer. Well, I hope this video was helpful for you guys if you're deciding whether to get a smaller or a bigger machine. But one thing, don't ever get a 3-gallon. Ever. They're stupid. They suck. Thank you for watching. CBs.